Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle, once and for all, best magic trick.
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcast should have a theme song. Podcast should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it.
You know what?
You're right. We got this.
Oh, my God. All right. Shall we do this?
I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
We've been rolling. We've been recording for a while. None of that is usable until now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe
This
some
is
of it.
usable. This is the usable stuff.
Great.
You're just going to have to imagine.
A
what you heard.
45-minute outtake reel at the end of this episode.
Great.
Get ready
Well,
for
you know
the
what? We'll make it
bloopers.
bonus content.
Yeah.
Sure.
Here comes the fun drive.
It's 17 gigs and you just upload it to Zoom.
Once you zip it, it's like 40 beforehand.
Right.
Ugh, what a nightmare.
We are here today with Misty Lee. Misty Lee, we've been trying to get you on the show. We're so happy to have you here. This is very, very exciting for us to talk about something that you know a heck of a lot about.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been doing it a long time. I've been avoiding you guys for a long time, but Ken roped me in, so here we are.
Finally.
I'm
Yeah.
I want to
kidding,
run
I'm
through some of the cool stuff that you've done. Because there's too much. I mean, put aside the fact that you're an incredible voiceover actor.
Well, thanks.
That's incredible. Look it up if you don't believe me. Why would I start lying now?
Yeah. You haven't lied in over 300 episodes.
How do they know that?
Except that one time. That
That's because they don't
one
know.
time that no one knows
Do you
about.
have a fact checker?
Yeah. It's
No.
that he's been busy for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So we've been coasting for a while.
Well, it's me. I check all the facts and
Yes.
zero Pinocchios.
There you go.
Ooh. Not only are you.
How many knees, though?
Oh my goodness. Oh,
More
you
knees
missed all
than
the
Stretch
Stilt
Man.
stuff,
Oh, Stilt
people.
Man.
Stretch Man.
I don't know. No, Stretch Man is what your grandfather calls Mr. Fantastic. Stretch Man.
Well, at least he isn't calling Sue Storm Stretch Man, because then we
Right.
would have some major problems. And it's time for Grandpa to go to the institution.
Grandpa's cataracts are acting up. Stop.
This is
no.
not what we're supposed to be talking about, is it?
It's
No.
never what we're supposed to be talking about.
Incredibly accomplished magician. You are
Thanks.
staff medium at the Magic
Mhm.
Castle, the world famous Magic Castle. Also the
Mhm.
voice of the Magic Castle.
Mhm.
Also, not only did you appear on Penn and Teller's Fool Me, but you fooled Penn and Teller.
Oh, that is not true. That is a lie. I did not
No, you
fool
didn't fool them?
them. No, but I
How?
knew I wasn't
How
good.
you
at
are
fooling.
embarrassing me.
No, I'm
because
not
I
embarrassed.
watched it. I watched it.
No.
Well, you fooled me.
I got to stab Louis, Louis Anderson.
Louis Anderson, yeah.
him.
Did?
That was cool. But I knew going into that segment, and here's some behind the scenes magic stuff that probably nobody will care about. But that trick that I did on Penn and Teller's Fool Us is it's a variation of a Wayne Dobson trick called This Is Your Knife. And I worked with a magician named Andy Nyman on it. And we talked about it. And he said, well, how do you want to make this your own? And I said, I'm going to stab a spectator. Wayne just stabs himself. Wayne is a great UK magician that isn't really working as much as he used to. But anyway, I digress. When I got on set, they said, couple changes to the routine that you've been doing all this time that you're so used to, that we all selected together. First of all, you have a guest star and you have to give him attention whenever he asks for it. You know, like pull focus the way that you're supposed to. And you guys understand that.
Mhm.
But also, legal said you can't stab a spectator. You have to stab Louis Anderson, which on the surface is a very fun thing to be told. And also, I usually hand the knives out to the audience for inspection.
Mhm.
And this isn't really giving away the way the trick works, but it's giving away a little piece of it, which Penn kind of alluded to. So I don't really feel like I'm violating any magician's code, although I probably will several times in this podcast. But I own this trick, so why would I tell you how that works? So anyway, they said also you have to hand the knives to Penn and Teller. And even though that's not how the trick works, they're not trick knives at all.
Mhm.
I knew that as soon as I handed the knives to Penn and Teller, they were going to know what my methodology was. And I said to Lincoln, who's a very nice guy, the EP, I said, hey, if I do that, I'm ruining my chance of fooling Penn and Teller. And I just fooled Johnny Thompson and Michael, their magic advisors. And I said, this is going to change everything. And he said, right, that is true. He said, so you have a choice. Do you want the time on national television and a well-produced thing for your reel? He said, I'll pay you anyway. or do you just want to go home?
Oof.
And I chose to go through. And he was incredibly personable and super nice about it. He was like, look, I get it.
Yeah.
You're in a professional quandary, but you're here. You did your job. You're about to shoot the thing. You showed up for all your rehearsals. You showed up for your package shoot. All of it is done. But what do you want to do as a pro? Do you want the airtime or do you want to, not to walk away from this, but with a paycheck? And I went, I don't have a lot of national credits. And I kind of need the exposure. And I was so full of regret about the way that thing turned out. Everything funny that I said, they cut out. And I did the trick in one take, even with, like step here 2 paces, turn around, hand this, move there. You're going to step 2 steps behind him. I was so nervous and focused that I executed every single change, but they just, and at the end of it, it all boiled down. I was just devastated with the way it turned out. I didn't think I came off right. I didn't think I made the right decision, even though they were super nice and Penn and Teller were super nice. Got a great quote out of Penn. He said, "You're not just a female magician. You're Misty Lee." And I was like, oh yeah, that's going in my promo. Can I get that clip? No. Okay. Boop, boop. I'll back up then. But he did say it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it all boiled down to one comment on YouTube. And doesn't it though? Because I was so sad and everybody's just ripping me apart. And that trick is so linear and it's boring. Well, it was changed completely from the way that I do it. But the bottom line, in the middle of all this stuff, some dude named Jeebus Crusts wrote one word, tits. And I was like, you know what? That comment has as much merit as this comment, which has as much merit as this comment. And they're kind of all the same. Tits. Yeah. That's my walkaway, was tits. And I thought, you know what? I'm okay. So here we are, tits.
Let the healing begin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like you make a choice, either do I stop here? Am I devastated? Do I not go on? And do I say, oh, that was horrible? Or do I put it on my resume and say, yeah, that's a thing I did. They called and I'm not supposed to tell you this, but they called and said, you want to do it again? And I said, you know what? No.
Oh,
no,
wow.
I don't. And they were like, we get it. So it's just, like that and America's Got Talent. It's not for me. It's not my brand. It's not what I love. And Ken's going to cut all of this out.
No, he's not.
No, it's not interesting though. And we need to talk about the magic.
Oh, no. This is why we do this show. We'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I feel bad.
The weird thing about it is it sounds like I was saying it just like somebody told me Misty was on Penn and Teller Fools. But I actually watched it and my memory of it, I thought you were so, just to know that me, an outside person who does know you.
Yeah.
First of all, 100% fooled. I thought you were fantastic.
Thank you.
And in my brain watching it, I was like, well, it's got to be tough to fool them because they see so much stuff and they seem like they've built and modified a bunch of stuff. But my memory of it, I thought it was so good that my memory of it became, oh, she fooled them.
Oh, that's nice.
Because she's so good.
And I watched the FU trophy.
You know what? You fooled Hal, though.
I fooled Hal, though.
Yeah.
And that makes it all worthwhile. That Hal and tits. I'm
right.
Good. Everything else I achieve for the rest of my life now.
2024. Yeah.
Gravy.
Fooling Hal and tits.
Tits.
Yes.
Jeebus Crusts was his screen name. And
I love that you remember that.
Oh, how could I forget?
Of course.
How could I forget?
Look, when Jeebus Crusts says
the leader
that
of
to
the
you.
Church of the Grilled Cheese.
Thou shalt not put mayo on thy grilled cheese.
He's fake. He's fake. Let's talk about somewhere that you do seem more in your element than on a national TV stage with
television.
Somebody saying, do this, change this, do this, do this, flip all this around. Let's talk about the Magic Castle. Specifically, I want to ask you about the Houdini seance. The Houdini seance is one of those things when you move to Los Angeles, you hear about it. It's sort of a legendary thing. What are you allowed to say about it?
I can tell you everything about it. And I can also tell you that the room has been completely gutted and they're renovating it. Jim Steinmeier.
No.
Yeah. The Houdini seance is being completely revamped. And I can't tell you what's coming because that's still being worked out and constructed. And there's this really sexy, exciting script that everybody's going through that's going through changes. And Jim Steinmeier's written a whole new show. And that's not going to start for quite a while because COVID and all this other stuff. But I can tell you what it was and what we have been doing. And then you can be excited to see the new stuff when we get in there. So what it was a room that was full of Houdini artifacts. And what we would do as mediums, which I used to refer to as the conduit between this plane of existence and the beyond, was conjure the ghost. We would conjure several ghosts. My particular show was all the shows were a light part and a dark part. My particular show, in the light part, conjured spirits who used to haunt that building for real. So residents like Roland Lane, who built the house, and the little girl that runs back and forth outside the Palace of Mystery, real ghosts that you've seen. And then the lights would go out and we would conjure the spirit of Harry Houdini. And the room would come to life. The piano played itself and the radio would turn on and ghosts would speak. Dr. Saint would speak through it. And the fireplace would light up and all this stuff would happen that was magic. And new stuff will happen that is magic, but not that stuff anymore. Yeah. And it was a really, really, really fancy job to have. And I still think it is. I just don't know what the job is going to be.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm excited to see what it becomes, because that building is one of my favorite places in Los Angeles. The times that I've gotten to go, it's always been exciting.
Yeah. Well, you can go anytime you want now. You just
look at this.
Hey, isn't that why we're doing this? Isn't that what this is for?
Look, that's why we're doing this whole episode. This was all a big ruse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
It's like one of those magic movies where it turns out in the end the whole thing was a heist.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what, honey? I'm into it. Let's go there. Let's do it. And now you can have a pass anytime you want.
Woohoo! Fantastic.
Worth your while.
But yeah, do you prefer playing in the smaller rooms there or the bigger rooms that I love the basement where it's all like I know you do a lot of sort of macabre, late 19th century kind of vibe to your stuff, that it has that kind of thing. All of these rooms are different. What's your favorite room to play in there?
All the rooms are different, just like you said. And the woman who does the seances is completely different than when they asked me to headline Halloween and I did a Day of the Dead show on the stage covered in flowers and skull makeup.
Cool.
And that woman is completely different than the one that they asked to headline the Christmas show with Michael Finney and came out in half a Santa suit and was shouting at her beautiful women and put them in ugly Christmas sweaters, right? So it's just, as a magician, I morph and modify depending on what that room is going to be and who I know the audience will be.
Cool.
When I'm in the seance room, I know that they've paid a lot of money for dinner and to see this show. So, and I also know that the show is predicated on the supernatural. And it turns out that ghosts don't haunt Tenyo effects. And Tenyo is a common magic manufacturer. So it's a better joke if you're a magician, but I'm just making excuses for myself now. But so I had to create magic that had to do with old China because that house was built in 1908. And so if this stuff belonged to Roland B. Lane, and I'm going to say that, if it didn't really belong to him, I have to make it look like it did. So that's high-end magic. That isn't relatively engaging. It's more performative. Whereas when I'm on stage, it's a much bigger energy. I don't want to do that big energy in a room full of 12 people in closed quarters because their hair is going to blow back, and that's not appropriate. It's going to make them real uncomfortable. If I'm doing that on purpose, that's one thing. But on stage, when you're in front of 160, it's a totally different vibe. I've also done the parlor.
I want to drill into this a little bit because, number one, I think we have an interesting challenge here, which is I don't want you to have to betray the magician's code.
I totally will, though.
You can to the extent that you're comfortable, but that
100%.
There's going to be so much
gotcha
bleeping.
Podcasting.
Yeah, you can ask me questions off. I'll just tell Ken to omit it if it's too much.
Number two is it's interesting because Mark and I are kind of attacking this in the dark because I've seen a ton of different illusions. I've been to the Magic Castle a bunch of times. I remember seeing Derek and Helder when they were still sort of workshopping down there in the basement. And so I don't know we don't know the names or technical terms, but I also think that there's something this is such a broad category because there are things like David Copperfield making the Empire State Building disappear. And then there's, I do not know this person's name, but at the international magic competition did cup and balls with clear cups.
Oh yeah. Well, Teller did that too.
Like something like that, to do something that is a very well-known routine that's done everything from like a little kid's birthday party to these grandest stage, the grandest stage with, as you pointed out, magicians putting their own, you have to take ownership of it. What is your version of it that's you and is different? How do we attack this? How would you attack this?
Well, let's first talk about what we're going to decide. Are we going to, because there's like 9 or 10 supernatural things that a magician can really do. They can divine information or read your mind.
Mm-hmm.
They can put something through something else, like a coin through, or a pen through a coin, or a person through a wall, like Houdini did with the brick wall. They can float. They can levitate. They can escape from something. They can make two things switch places. They can transform something into something else. They can animate something that wasn't living before, produce something, make something disappear, like restore something that's busted. There's all kinds of things that they can do. So we could go categorically and say, what's the best category, which would be fine. Or we could say, what is the be all end all magic trick? Understanding that magic is an art and art is subjective. So it's just our opinion.
Yeah.
Right. And I have a lot of opinions.
I'm very excited for them. I think I'm actually looking at that list myself of those 10 different magic things that can happen. I think that we might be able to pull from each of these. If we take them one at a time,
sure.
You can let us muggles know what they mean, what they are. And I'm sure we can find either a large scale or a close-up scale or one of each for each of them. And I'm sure some huge contenders will start to appear.
100%. And
how does that sound?
Yes. And also understand that each of us seeks out our particular type of scope of magic. So for example, you mentioned David Copperfield, someone who's like 18 might not know who David is. And they've never seen him vanish the Statue of Liberty. And they don't know. By the way, the dude who designed that illusion, vanishing the use of the Empire State Building, I don't know if Copperfield did that. He probably did. But he did the Statue of Liberty on TV. The dude who designed that is the dude who's reworking the seance at the Magic Castle. Jim Stein.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Also wrote the book Hiding the Elephant about Harry Houdini. So it's not like they just grabbed some slouch and threw it to whoever. You know what I mean? So I'm pretty excited about the seances. So we all have this artistic scope that we've seeked out because we have a type of entertainment that we like. You know, so like someone really might like card magic and someone else really might like personality stuff. So we're just going to pick what we dig. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Look, I'm going to be honest. If I'm throwing in my 1/3 of this, it's probably going to be big, giant things that happen on stages with assorted motorcycles and helicopters and all kinds of that stuff.
It's so funny because I'm the opposite.
I like the small stuff.
I think I think my favorite room in the castle might be the close-up parlor because no matter how close you get, when it's done well, and look, I saw a guy doing coins where he would, change it and make it disappear. And I definitely, for like a second, saw like, all right, I'm in an implicit agreement with you when I walk in that I'm not really interested in figuring out how you did it. I'm going to think about it afterwards, but I want to enjoy it. Yeah. But every now and then somebody could have an off moment where I see just enough to go, oh, wait, I got pulled out of it for a second.
We call that flashing.
I was flashed.
That's not how we use it, but I'll allow it.
I got flashed at the Magic Castle.
You were flashed at the Magic Castle. That is a bumper sticker that we probably won't print.
That's not
but it's your personal story. And the good news is I'm in the middle. I appreciate the technical skill that goes into the close-up stuff, but I also appreciate the technical skill that goes into the big stuff. And I've done both. Yeah. So I like certain aspects of this thing and I love certain aspects of that thing. So hopefully we'll all be able to come up with something we all three love, which is pretty cool.
I'm very excited.
Yeah. I'm kind of into it.
Let's get started. Let's start with productions. We're going to start with productions and vanishes, making something appear in its simplest form. This could be pulling a rabbit out of a hat, making doves appear out of your jacket. What are some large scale? Because those seem like, stage, but like small stage illusions. I'm trying to think of like giant appearing big. Things.
Well, we were just talking about the Statue of Liberty disappearing. That got the whole country on its feet. Everyone was stumped. And the way it works, I'm obviously not going to tell you on the podcast, but the way that it works is incredibly simple. And it's really, really devious and really smart, which is the truth for so much of magic. Like there are three kinds of people that watch magic. There are people who think they know. There are people who gotta know. And there are people who don't want to know. Right. And I love the people who gotta know because they appreciate the arts. And I love to share the secret with those people only. I don't like some nerd coming up to me going, well, I know that you actually have a time machine and you were able to go back in time. And it's like, no, it's actually just a slit and the coin just slides down into the, okay, I have a fucking time machine. Oh, yeah, you're fine. I got a time machine.
We have a bleep machine.
Yeah. Well, I also have a retake. So, but It's like, okay, dude. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and I did a show in the parlor, and a dude came up to me after, and he was like, "So I saw that thing you did with the teacup, and that was amazing. And I'm working on something with tea, and you have to tell me how that worked." And I said, "I turned into Christopher Walken in 7 Psychopaths," and I was like, "No." And he was like, "But I'm a magician." And I said, "I don't care." And he was like, "But we need to share our secrets." And I said, "Too bad."
Wait, is that a magician's code thing? Like if a magician comes up to you and says, "I'm a magician, you have to tell me the secret"? Like if you're a cop, you have to tell me?
Yeah, you have to show me your badge.
No. So show me your pin. You're going to whip your deck out and I'm going to tell you something. Get out of here. Tell you nothing.
The importance of the is the importance of the code. I mean, I get the practical part of why ruin the illusion for the audience.
Yeah.
But also from a practical standpoint, something like if there's something very simple behind making the Statue of Liberty disappear. It's a simple, devious thing.
And it becomes
used for centuries. If you expose that, then that sets a domino effect that would ruin a ton of other illusions, because then you're 100%. Looking for it in everything.
Yes.
So it is protecting the audience and maintaining that sense of you have to have some sense of wonder and some sense of illusion. Otherwise, why are you there? This isn't Mythbusters. But then the other half is practically protecting the magic community from being able to continue to take the sourdough starter and create your own loaves of bread out of it.
100%. Yes, that is very apt and incredibly concise. And it helps perpetuate the art form, and it also keeps the audiences curious and full of wonder. Yes. Originally, a lot of magic, and there's a woman who's continuing this work overseas, like in third world countries. She's using magic and coming in like the Jesus and teaching people, helping women brings good things, and don't poop upstream of where you grab your water. Literally, she's coming in as a prophet and using sleight of hand with sponge balls and coins. Her name is Lisa Mena. Her project is called Cause to Wonder, and it's really lovely. A lot of, people are on both sides of it, and they're like, "Oh, she shouldn't be doing that." But she's helping these people advance. And she's, so I am a fan. But going back to what you said, Hal, 100%. If you expose everything, you become in danger of nothing being special anymore. I mean, look at our society. We hold a phone. What did Louis C.K. say? You hold something in your hand that can talk to space. And I think that is why, what can we as magicians do that make you wonder, to give you that cause to wonder, to coin, use Lisa's coin term. So, you have to make it matter. The matter now has changed. Houdini was able to tour around. He didn't have YouTube. He was able to go 2 months ahead, make his plans, do his PR, and there was nothing else going on, and people would show up to watch him, and they would look at just a curtain for 45 minutes. And then people would he would sit back there and read a book, and occasionally kick the curtain, and people would be amazed. Now you see a dude juggling 12 balls on YouTube once, and he was on AGT. You don't need to see him live. You've already seen that.
Yeah.
We have a very unique, both skeptical and educated society. So how does a magician make that matter? They make it matter, A, in close up, by using stuff that what a quarter is, or what a card can and cannot do, or on large stage by making something happen that is so supernatural and impossible because it's too fast. It defies the laws of physics, and now I'm engaged. Now I'm interested. Now it matters, right? Yeah. Or third, they ask the question why, and have put so much of their heart and soul into developing their art form that you connect with them on that level. And those are the only 3 things that can make it a trick, going back to the reason that we're talking about all this, really matter. Now, I think, it's like, how do you make this speak to your individual audience members and make this moment of magical curiosity special for them? And it's one of the things that I think Penn and Teller's Fool Us really falls down on. Because what that show did, and the reason I said no to it season 1 when they approached me, what that show did was put the emphasis on the trick, the gimmick, the way that it works, as opposed to, here's 3 magicians doing the exact same illusion their way. And we all know how it works. Let's see which one really makes it matter to us. That's a show that I would do. That's a show that I would love to produce and would love to pitch, because that brings out the art and the art form. right?
Do you think that YouTube and sites like that have helped or hurt the world of magic in that it's given you the ability to see the same trick a million different times as done by different artists' takes on it? But also you're seeing things. You've got, my video feed has pause and rewind and all these other, like, that's a thing, when it's live and in the room. Do you think it's helped or hurt?
I think the answer to your question is yes.
Okay.
I think yes.
Yeah.
And I think that it depends. I think that we find what we look for. So if you want to know how a trick works, you find someone doing it poorly and you advance it frame by frame, you're going to learn at least one method of doing it. Maybe not the best method of doing it.
Probably the one that doesn't work great.
Right. But you will find out, it's the cup, or, it's the string. Oh, there's a string on it. A good magician might not use it that way, but you will definitely find out one way that it could be done. If you are looking and you're studying the cups and balls, you mentioned that earlier with clear cups, for example, and you say, I want to see all the ways that magicians have done the cups and balls. And you can go all the way back to discovery of witchcraft in the 1500s, and it's in there, and say, I really want to put my own spin on the cups and balls. I want to see all of these things, and I really want to see it done well. I want to see it matter to me. And then I want to build from there. And then you can find that too. And so I think that it has both helped and hurt. And then also what I just alluded to a moment ago, which is we constantly have to update our content and our repertoire, as any current content producer will tell you, because we have so many options and can consume it so fast. And if we didn't quite hear what they said, we don't have to ask our friends at the water cooler in the morning or wait until it comes back on rerun. We just hit the back button, say, what did he say? Or you got to pee, you just pause it. You're not going to miss it. It's no longer an event. Entertainment isn't something that's special and can only be seen once live.
Right.
They're doing a little bit of that with the Zoom during the pandemic, but it's not the same, because even on Zoom, you can step away or record and come back, and, and we have so much control over the way that we consume entertainment that it's really a unique environment. I've likened what's going on right now with the internet and the digital media and the streaming and all of this stuff. I said, boy, it's almost like when vaudeville was turning into talkies. And who's going to come forward and who's going to be the pioneer that really figures this out? Because everybody's trying to figure it out, and you get a front runner like Netflix, and then everybody goes, okay, well, we'll do the Netflix thing. It's this plus and Paramount plus and Disney plus and that plus and that plus. And now all of a sudden everyone's paying $200 a month again that they were paying to their cable for all these streaming services, and they're not watching any of it. And who's going to really figure it out and lasso the moon? It's a really interesting time. They always say, may you live in interesting times. And we certainly are.
Sure. It's our version of radio coming along.
Kind of. Yeah.
With that being the case, and YouTube having this massive effect on something like magic and the internet video speed revolution. I mean, we're doing this right now over Zoom. The ability to do this, do you think that takes away? Because it seems to me like a great magic trick is going to need great storytelling and a wow factor. Yep. As we've sort of managed to cobble it down in this conversation.
Yeah.
And the wow factor of it, like how'd they do that, seems to be almost evening out in the way you said, like, if you want to find out how they're doing it, you can. So that becomes less of an element. Does the storytelling become more of an element? And by that rationale, is what we determine to be our best magic trick going to be something that is a usable piece to tell a story in 1,000 different ways?
I think maybe. And I think that again, that is a completely subjective answer. For me, it's a mix of all of those things. And it's something that I admire so much that creates such a magical moment. I don't care how it's done, because I usually know. I usually watch something and I go, oh, it's this trope or it's that specific thing. But every once in a while I see something and either I don't know or I just don't care, because it was so beautiful and so on purpose that as I said, they made it matter. And I think that the real big question that a lot of magicians don't ask or answer is why. We could be anywhere else right now, but right now we're right here. And this is what you've chosen to show us. Why? And for so many magicians, the answer is, well, because I can. Here's a quarter. Now it's gone. Aren't you stupid? And it's like, well, what are you doing that for? You're just an asshole. You might as well just, I'm sorry for the language, but
that's all right.
it is really a falling short of using that opportunity to connect with human beings. And that's what I personally, subjectively think theater is for. I think that really good theater helps us become more human, and it makes us ask questions about, what am I really doing here? And have I done everything I can for everybody? And what is this journey actually all about? And I don't expect a magic trick to answer those questions, but I do hope that a magic trick will encourage me to ask more. Yeah. So I think that the answer to your question, the several questions that you kind of wrapped into one there so deftly is yes. I think all of those things in the best trick ever will be present. But will it be a trick that anyone can pick up and wow anybody with? I hope not.
Well, I don't mean anybody. I mean great magicians with the ability to tell stories.
Sure, of course. I understand that you're vetting, that it's a vetted anybody.
It's not
artist.
The quarter behind the ear is not going to win.
It's not just anybody's uncle can pick it up. And I understand that, but I'm selfishly hoping that the trick that we choose, because I definitely have one in mind. I have several favorites, is something that is so specific to that magician because their heart is on display or because their soul is so connected. It appears to be, whether it is or not, connected to what they're presenting that there's no one else in the world that could do it like that.
Yeah.
Which leads me into one of my first things that I'm going to pitch, because that's what the magician says, like that.
That was a good segue.
Yeah. You like that?
No, I was going to say you hit the nail on the head. There's one that I have in mind too. It would be funny if it was the same one.
I wonder if all three of us have the same one in mind.
Oh, that's exciting and sexy.
If it was, this could be the longest conversation with the shortest decision making ever. Which would be,
I'm really curious. I'm so curious now.
This could be the longest conversation with the shortest decision period ever. Because we all agree. But I don't want to say what it is yet, but it is something I've seen both open and close an act several times.
Okay.
And until I saw a version of it recently that was impactful enough, like I'm always amazed by it. I always want it. Like I feel like I got to know how it's done. But the last time I saw it, was the first time I thought I don't ever want to know how it's done because the experience I had with that was so impactful that I think about it multiple times a week, if not every single day.
Wow.
And to know how it was done would somehow cheapen that experience for me. And I'm happy being the audience member. I don't want to have it like, I want to be like Jennifer and I took my father to the Magic Castle for his birthday. And I don't think I'd ever been to like an actual proper magic show with him. And the look on his face, we could have stayed there all night long.
Oh, he liked it. Okay. I thought you were going to say it was just utter disgust. Like,
no,
oh God.
Every single time a trick had ended, he just had this like, like they did it again. I just feel so dumb looking at it. I don't know. I know that this isn't actually like Doctor Strange, but he was blown away by from what seemed like the simplest thing to the most ornate performance. He was blown away. Like I didn't realize how much he loved magic.
That's cool.
Until he was there watching those shows. And that's not a feeling I always have. A lot of the times I get into I enjoy watching this person's patter. I like the performance. I like the personality they bring to it. But this particular trick that I'm thinking of always floors me in that way. And now is like, I don't even want to talk about it much more right now because
I won't ruin it for you.
I
will say that based on your description and what you've just said, we have different tricks.
Probably is different.
Yeah. And that's cool. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Mark, what's yours?
Mine is,
don't tell us what it is. I don't think, right? You're just going to tell us about it.
I'm
Jesus. This is the tease.
The reason it's what you were talking about, Misty, all of that whole last description of the perfect piece of magic, perfect effect. There's only one trick that popped into my mind when you were talking about that. And it is one that I got to see live in New York, but everyone can see now. Or most people can see now. I don't know if this is the same effect, but this is, it was so tied to this artist. And it was,
I think I know who the artist is.
Yeah. It's so
we also have a different trick, but I think I know who it is.
Oh, okay.
Is it the coloring book?
Yes, it's a magic coloring book.
And then they're fully colored, but then they're not filled in.
Yes. Which I do backwards, by the way. I do. I have this
yeah.
birthday party character, Princess Magic.
Oh, that's good.
And she's a drunk old lady birthday party character. And she comes out, and that's the first trick I do. I go, well, you see all the pretty pictures? And, she's got a cigarette, and she goes, now, you take your magic wand, and you wave it over, and you say the magic word. And then look.
Nice.
Cool.
On cue.
Just like all my hopes and dreams. And I throw it on the floor. See, talk about making it your own. I practice what I preach.
You do it for little kids' birthday parties, I assume.
Well, ostensibly, like she would never, that is not, she's not, that's the joke.
Oh my God.
Absolutely, she comes out and she goes, ooh, look at all the grown-ups. And she's got a bottle of alcohol and she's like, I'm used to performing for the babies. No, she's not. Yeah, actually, Mike Ross's class. You know Mike Ross quite well.
Yeah.
And Mike Ross's class is where she came from.
Amazing.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had to do monologues, and that's what I chose.
I love it.
She's been with me for years.
It's a pretty great one.
I wish I'd been there for that interview.
Mike Ross, for the listeners who don't know, Mike Ross was all of our Second City teacher.
Yeah.
Back in the day on Melrose.
Yeah. And he is incredible. He's an incredible collaborator. He's incredibly creative. And he is like one of the best kept secrets in all of Hollywood. He's just a font of creativity.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. I would like to jar his brain.
That Misty is referring to is he'll have you create characters, but then you will sit and he will interview you in front of the class. And the way that he does it, it's not, I don't think it's something that again, it's like a magic trick. The way he's able to not even lead you, but sort of guide you. And go, hey, let me ask you a question that's going to open up a bunch of possibilities. And you're going to discover, you're going to walk away with a character that's 3 times deeper than 3 minutes ago when you sat down. He does that so well. It blows
Would you say
away.
it's the best magic trick?
Actually, it's pretty damn good.
So much of theater is, we could go really cheesy and say that like the greatest magic trick is theater itself, right, guys?
The laughter of a child.
Yeah, the greatest magic trick is storytelling.
Smile.
The laughter of a child.
Yeah. A hug on a rainy day. That's my favorite.
No,
I don't know about you.
That's the greatest medicine, Hal. We're going to do that on our best medicine episode.
When you got a doctor on.
Yeah, when we got a doctor on. She comes on next. Just wear a fake mustache for the Zoom. And this is Dr. Misty Lee coming on.
Oh, good afternoon. I'm pushing up my glasses. It's so nice to be here. I'm an expert with a degree in the medicine.
Thank goodness.
Well, thank goodness, because we're picking the best of the medicines.
Yes.
No, we're picking the best magic trick. I abandoned long ago the idea of going through these in any sort of chronological
we left that
way.
behind.
Yeah.
It's dusty.
Structure is for wimps.
Dusty. Yes, that's right.
But I do want to give a shout out to a few different epic things that are on this list. Escapes. I, as a kid, grew up loving magic. I had every magic kit that I could buy locally, and I was obsessed with Escapes. That was the thing I wanted to watch on television. Sure, David Copperfield walking through the Great Wall of China was amazing. But remember when he escaped from Alcatraz and Houdini with his amazing escapes? I just want to give a shout. I don't know that any of these escapes, they feel more like stunts.
Can I ask you a dark question? Did you have
Please.
a difficult home life?
No.
Okay.
No, I had a really I had 2 loving parents who let their kid buy all of the magic kits that were locally available.
Great. That's awesome. Yeah, because sometimes people, like one of the reasons that Houdini was so resonant to immigrants was they had also escaped. And so he became their icon in the, in the early teens and 20s because he was able to rise above and he could not be held down. And they were experiencing such high mortality rates and spiritualism was on the rise. But Houdini was this icon. And the other thing about Houdini is he never claimed to have any supernatural powers. He said that what he did was apparent miracles. So there was a modicum of honesty in the middle of his deceit. And so it was like Batman. If you had the same discipline and wherewithal and anger in your belly, you too could accomplish these amazing feats. But you had a question, Mark. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just got excited.
Look, I get excited. We're talking about my favorite thing. I love it. So I'm getting excited. I really wasn't a question. I just wanted to open up to some thoughts about other types of great magic that we all clearly have something in our heads that we love.
Yeah.
Mine in particular is a piece of mentalism. They all are different kinds of magic. Teleportations were another one that I loved. I watched David Copperfield. I saw him live when I was a kid. I loved him. I grew up in the 80s. I watched him disappear in the audience and reappear on a motorcycle on stage. That is a teleportation that is made of a production and a vanish. So that's 100%. All like, it's just math. It's just stacking different of these 10 elements on top of each other to create these stories.
Math and timing.
Yeah.
But it's the storytelling that sticks with you all these years later.
Exactly.
Because if you saw a motorcycle in a parking spot here, and then you looked down at your phone and looked up and it was 2 spots away, you'd go, oh, that's weird. But the fact that David made it matter to you for 25 years, 30 years, it's the story.
Yeah. He made it matter to me for 25 years because he took 25 minutes to tell the story of this motorcycle before he actually.
But how long did they take to decide how to tell that story?
Yeah.
He's a master, and he had the best, and he's still working, you know, but he has the best of the best. And the nice thing about David is he knew how to vet it.
Mm-hmm.
He really had the wherewithal and the love for the art form. He started as, he became David Copperfield from David Kotkin in a musical. I think it was in Chicago. I'm probably wrong, but he played a magician in a musical. And when he was done, he said, can I have these illusions? We've worked this out. Can I just keep doing it? And they said, sure. And he went to a magic convention and he performed some, you know, like truncated versions of the acts that he was doing in that show. And he was so slick and so polished and had opportunities to improvise good lines. And so his jokes and his writing and his music was original. And people were like, who the hell is this kid?
Yeah.
And he really blew everybody away because he was savvy enough to take what he had been given and really make it work and then parlay it into something else. And he started taking ads out in the back of Variety saying, do you know who this guy is? Because you should.
Wow.
And became a staple and one of the go-to guys just because he said so. But he also had the gift to back it up.
Yeah.
And he had the smarts to get himself there. He's a really, really smart dude.
Well, he's great. And I would argue that one of the iconic pieces of magic. There's some that in trying to figure out what the greatest is, we can also, I think about magicians who have done their thing so epically well. Like we mentioned before, a piece of magic that is like, that not anyone could do, but could be adapted to any performer's style. Yeah. There's some that are so specifically associated with certain people. Like you mentioned before, how the Statue of Liberty disappearing, or when Copperfield walked through the Great Wall of China, he just did like monument magic for a while there, which was great. I love monument magic.
Well, there's also travel destinations. So they could lump that in and say, and here's 15 minutes about China.
I mean, that's
smart. And also packaging is what it is.
And that's David Copperfield being smart. He's going like, you know what sounds fun?
Yeah.
What if I made Kauai disappear?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just go there for a couple months to scope it out, really work out what it's going to be.
Well, I mean, early Mark Wilson in the Magic Land of Alakazam, he got the sponsors and then he got the shows. And if I'm not mistaken, and again, I might be, I don't want to claim to have all the facts. So please double check. And, you know, Hal is our fact checker, so he'll tell you if I'm lying. But
I'm definitely not lying. Go ahead.
I believe David Copperfield had Clorox in his back pocket when he approached channels to sell his original show. So it was all born of business and a good idea.
Wow.
And what a wonderful marriage we all benefited from.
This is me as a magic consumer. When you said he had Clorox in his back pocket, I took that literally. And I thought, what's the magic illusion that he was doing that he had that bleach in his back pocket? Like
he made stains disappear.
He made a show appear is what he did.
That is impressive.
I mean, quite literally, if you see his show in the last 10 years or so, he has a baby shoe with your ring on it in his back pocket.
I mean,
I think that's what he's doing right now. But, yeah.
What's the most astounded you've ever been in a magic trick?
I can't remember the answer to that question. It has been so long since I've been surprised by anything. I've been delighted by things several times over the years and like, oh, well, that's interesting. Or, hey, that's a good take on that. But I have not gone, what? In at least 25 years. And one of those tricks is one of the ones that I'm going to bring up as a contender.
Ooh. All right. Look, we've been going for a while.
Been gassing.
Let's talk about our contenders.
Get in it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm reluctant to do this is because I don't want our 3 like personal favorites to preclude, you know, we haven't even mentioned Linky a deck of cards or sawing a woman in half or pulling a rabbit out of a hat. You know what I mean? Like
I have one card trick
Uh-huh.
that I'll do it for any person either twice or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
If they guess it, which they have to do away from everybody else, I'll never do it in front of them again.
Mhm.
But if they don't know, then after those 2 or 3 times, then they never get to see it again, and they can always wonder. Now it is the most, like, if I, for me, it's fun to, I love doing it because it makes me feel like I'm a little on the inside. Like, card tricks are great.
Sure.
And I think Mark and I'm almost certain that Mark and I have the exact same one.
Okay.
I don't know. No, if I can do a magic trick 3 times, it's because I have 3 Svengali decks in my pocket.
Yeah. Well, and I will tell you that Di Vernon, who is renowned amongst magicians, is like he's like the what do they call? They call him the professor, but there's like another little cute thing that they call him. But
Marianne,
yes. Yeah. And Ginger. But he had a card trick and he made an entire career, although he'd roll his eyes at it, as the man who fooled Houdini. Because Houdini used to say, you show me a card trick and I'll tell you how it's done. And Di showed him a card trick and Harry watched it and said, do it again. And he did it again. And Harry said, do it again. And after a couple of times, Bess, Harry's wife, shouted from the dressing room, just admit it, Harry, he's fooled you. And Di Vernon became the man who fooled Houdini.
Ooh,
and he traveled around on that for a long, long time. And he used to roll his eyes because he was like, it is not that hard to fool Houdini. He's not that good at cards. But well, I mean, Harry Blackstone Sr. said that Houdini was so not good with his hands that he couldn't put both hands into Central Park without rattling every leaf.
Well, it's because he spent so much time in an ice bath and then, Well, but also, I mean, when he was on vaudeville, he used to bill himself as the king of cards. And someone was like, I can't remember the guy's name. I was just talking to a Houdini historian about it the other day, but the guy walked up to him and said, hey, that card stuff you're doing is crap, but the escape stuff, now that's something. Ah, it makes sense.
And Houdini was like, oh, okay, well, we'll try more of that. And then the crowd started showing up and Houdini was a showman first.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So card
And
tricks are awesome.
all
Is that
magicians
no, not all magicians are showmen first. Lots of magicians are technicians first. Some magicians are, and by technicians, it's like, no, I just want to learn this muscle pass, or I just want to learn this double lift perfectly. Yeah. Some magicians are jealous hoarders and they just want to know everybody's secrets, even though they'll never perform them themselves. Some magicians are terrible technicians, but prefer to storytell and share of themselves, and people come and see their shows over and over. And then there are some magicians who just burn through material because they need constant content. And so they're doing things like exposing magic gimmicks for tricks that they didn't even create online because they're just burning through stuff because they got to generate, 6 movies a day for TikTok or whatever.
Yeah, I hate that.
Those numbers. And it's a thing, and it's a valid way of making money right now. And it's just a genre that's popped up recently. So anyway, back to tricks. I think you guys are afraid to share your tricks because you're afraid of being judged.
Oh, I'm not afraid of being. How dare you, ma'am?
No, I'm not.
Judging you already.
I know that I feel like Mark and I are in a race to see who's going to say it first.
Really?
Because ours is exactly the same.
Ours is exactly the same one.
100% exactly the same one.
Oh, wow.
It's Derek Delgadio's mentalism trick from In and
At
of
the
Itself.
end of In and of Itself.
Where everybody, actually, I'm not even going to say anything more about it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. That is not my trick, but yeah.
You need to go watch it. But I will say that that show had me in tears like 10 different times.
Now tell me why. I saw it when it was being workshopped, and I am, Derek is fine. He's been nothing but nice to me over time, but, it did not resonate with me the way it has resonated with the rest of the world. And I haven't had an opportunity to really hear what it is about that affected you theatrically from such a gut-wrenching point that you feel compelled to share it, that you feel compelled to, that it really moved you. So what is it?
I think for me, the central concept of the show itself, the idea of identity, is something that struck a note with me. And to not only understand how it is that we may see other people, but how we see ourselves and how we connect and relate to other people is very, very powerful to me. And the way that I think he does like 5 or 6 illusions over the course of an hour and a half. 6. He does 6 illusions over the course of an hour and a half. And at first I was like, oh, well, I saw him do a show with Helder where the very first thing that they do is sit there with a chess clock.
I remember
and do the back and forth card tricks until they've organized all of the suits and cards in an exact order, which was fantastic. And this was so slow and deliberate that I very quickly got pulled out of the idea that this is a magic show and got pulled into the idea of this is a piece of theater and art.
Oh, sure.
And I connected so strongly with that when he brought in his big illusion, that it just, it was just a very powerful moment. I was so connected at that point that when he pulls off what seems impossible to me, that I've seen done a million different times and a million different ways, and it always is impressive to me. It just hit me on a different level. And I think about that all the time, because it wasn't about making a correct guess. It wasn't about was this your card? It's about, this is who you think you are.
This is who you identify as.
Yeah.
And you were allowed to make that choice yourself, and then it was acknowledged. Is that what you're trying to say? That he saw you as you, the way that you see you, and that's what moved you?
Yes.
Is that kind of where it is? That's what I'm hearing. I just want to make sure that I'm hearing the right thing.
I wasn't even there in person. This is watching everybody, watching that mass experience that all of those people had. And I didn't know what was happening in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh no, no way. With all of these people. And I know they show a million different performances of it, but I was on the floor.
I'll say this as a person who saw it live. Everything that you just said, but also for me, it was the added layer of, I think in any performance, there's a special relationship between the performer and the audience. As a unit, as a group of individuals, there is a relationship there, and it's somewhere in that space between the footlights and the seats. You know what I mean? And that is sort of the magic of theater in itself. And, he did a magic trick that I just have no idea how he did it. I'm sure it's one of these mentalism things that's probably pretty easy, but it blew my mind that the little stack of cards had sat on the table the whole time, all that stuff that you think about with this. But that other element of it is the most magic in particular feels like such a specific relationship with an audience. As an actor, my job is, what did Lemley say? Laugh, cry, or sit on the edge of your seat. For a magician, it's a totally different thing. I also want you to believe in magic. And for him to do that literally with eye contact with every single member of that audience, look at them, wow them with a thing that he looked in my eyes. He said a thing that I'm the only person in the room that knew whether or not he was telling the truth. And I knew that he was. We had that exact moment, and then I sat down. And that to me is the most concise distillation of the perfect version of an actor or of a performer and audience relationship. So that to me is, I think, why it is the perfect magic trick.
And we have 66% consensus, and it comes down to a subjective situation with personal experiences. Yeah. And I will concede. And I will tell you why. I know you don't want to, and we can discuss other things, and I can pitch all of my favorite magic tricks.
But I still want to hear what the one you had in mind was.
Well, I have two in mind that really moved me. And one is because of the physical adeptness in order to accomplish it. And the other one is because I had a similar experience with it that you have both described with this. And this is the reason that I will concede, because your example is contemporary. Your example is repeatable. And your example is resonant with a lot of contemporary society. For whatever reason, that trick in particular, which did not move me, I thought it was clever, but I was not moved the way you guys were moved. And it's quite possible because I know a lot of behind the scenes things and had been personally colored, but I found the show very off-putting. Yeah. And I can tell you why off the podcast, but I was mad at the end. Oh. And I talked to a friend of mine about it, and I saw it in the very, very, very early iterations of it and would not give it another chance. And but everyone who saw it at the same time I did, the people who were leaving the elevator, I mean, I saw it way back at the Geffen when it was in warm-ups. And the people who were with me in the elevator were like, ugh, And so it's my understanding that a lot of the things I complained about were fixed later and that we saw them, like I said, nobody's first draft is perfect. Right. It's just not the way that this industry works. Right. And, J.J. Abrams, actually, my husband got a job on Lost because he had defended J.J. Abrams, who had written a first draft of a script and it was leaked and people were like, oh my God, this is terrible. And Paul stepped forward and said, hey, this is his first draft. How dare you judge anybody's first draft? It's great he got it done. That's more than a lot of you complaining about it is. And when Paul went into interview to write on Lost, JJ said, I saw that. Thanks.
Yeah.
So anyway, it isn't fair for me to judge. It wasn't a first draft. It had been, gone through several iterations when he finally put it on its feet. But as I was leaving, I was not the only person who felt that way. Wow. And I would never give it another chance because I was just like, no. He had 2 hours of my life back then and I didn't like it and I didn't like the way that he presented himself and I didn't like the story that he told because I thought that this part of it was incredibly selfish and I found it very off-putting. And I told it to a good friend of both of ours, a mutual friend, who you can bleep out, but I'll tell you guys who it is. And that person went forward and I think gently relayed some of those notes my notes don't matter. This dude has got an incredibly successful franchise and has moved people all over the world. I just wasn't one of them. Yeah, and I was quite angry when I left, not because the magic wasn't good, not because it was stuff I'd seen everywhere else. I certainly hadn't, but I found the individual, instead of connecting with him and feeling important and seen, I felt diminished. And I felt like I had been listening to a spoiled baby whine for 2.5 hours. Wow. And I was pissed. Yeah. But you're talking to the daughter of a schizophrenic who watched her dad be institutionalized at 10. And I've been through some crap. I mean, we all kind of have. And I think that I don't think that it's fair to minimize what anyone has been through that has affected them to make good art. But what I saw, I found very whiny. And it is my understanding that all of that has been wrung out of it and that the meaning has been amplified because it is my understanding, from an incredibly good place.
Yeah.
So I do not.
Let me ask you this. But before we go into the conceding.
You won't let me concede?
No, I won't let you concede. Now, knowing
it's
what
really
we
just
know,
one vote. We really just both said the same thing.
Yeah.
You did.
We're not experts.
No, I think you're making excuses because it's.
Hold on a second.
Okay,
now,
go ahead.
Do you think that the reason that this piece that moved Hal and I, not only because you are a professional magician and know things about the technical craft of it.
Sure. Which is cool, by the way.
Do you think that, it's very cool.
Yeah.
Do you also think it's because you understand people in a certain different way and you can see things that either an audience is doing or that a magician is doing that is manipulative in a certain way? And I am, of course, alluding to your study of the human lie detector.
Yeah.
You are a human lie detector. And blew my mind when I saw this.
Oh, thanks. And it was really fun. And it's really cool to have that skill. It takes a while to invest in somebody and figure out what their baseline is. So when I say that I do it instantaneously, I'm actually just cold reading like any good mentalist can do, because the lie detector stuff, you really have to dig in and know somebody's core behavior and their core beliefs to figure out, how they're actually deviating from that. My poor husband, he can't even eat a burrito and lie about it. But I'm like,
why would you ever lie about eating a burrito?
Well, we've been married 15 years. We just got, he just tries to get by, the poor thing. But, and he's such a good man. He really is. But yes, I definitely think that my perception of performance and theater, as well as the way that a magician presents themselves, is incredibly present and absolutely colored by what I know. But not just what I know from having what I've seen them present, but also what I know behind the scenes and, what I've heard and maybe what I brought in with me. All of that stuff absolutely matters. And it 100% shades perception of what I'm watching. Like if I know that Jack Goldfinger is a great guy and he's just so nice and he just loves everybody, and that is the truth. When I see Jack Goldfinger up on stage doing this trick that I've seen, a domino trick that I've seen magicians do, kids party magicians, fairs and festivals magicians, I'm going to scream and howl owl when it goes well? Do I care that it had a 1 dot and now it has 3 dots and now it has 6 dots? No, I do not. I care and love Jet Goldfinger, right?
Yeah,
and so for me, that 100% colors it because I know that guy and I love that guy.
Well, there will be an episode, I'm sure, of a podcast that also answers this question, but this is our version of answering this question. So we want to answer this question with our guests and not in defiance of our guest.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what those two pieces of magic that blew your mind were?
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one that I ever saw that I went, whoa, was Jonathan and Charlotte Pendragon performing the Metamorphosis. And that is a trick that Houdini created. And it was Jonathan gets locked in a box. Charlotte stands up on top and throws up a curtain and Jonathan rips through it and Charlotte is locked inside.
Yeah.
And that is incredible magic that they didn't create, but they made their own because they're both stunt performers and gymnasts. And no one else in the world, arguably, when they were at their peak, bodybuilders, gymnasts, and stunt people could do it that fast and that magically. And it was so instantaneous that even if you did the advance forward frame by frame, I couldn't figure it out. I worked with Jonathan and Charlotte years later and I watched it backstage. And I got to tell you, the technical adeptness, even in their late 50s, was incredible. And so not only was it, and it doesn't really have much of a story. I mean, if you look at it, oh yes, the escape, and all of that other stuff, but not the way they present it. She comes out and she's buff and she's like posing with a sword and that stuff I can, I don't need it.
The old school. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want it, but it was the 90s and that's what everybody was. She was like, I'm wearing a bathing suit covered in feathers and I don't give a crap about that. So, but what I do care about is the speed and the technical adeptness and the way that they took something that was already cool and made it physically impossible because of their unique skill set and abilities. That is one of the things that I just, and the wow factor, going back to one of the things that you brought up earlier, was 100% there, but there's no story.
There is no story in the Metamorphosis, but that is one of those tricks that I kept coming back to. And I kept saying, look, I know we have our favorites, knowing what I knew about what my personal favorite was, but it is a new thing that sort of just came into knowledge. The Metamorphosis is one of those iconic, make it your own pieces of magic like that.
That's true. That is true. Because once you know the secret, you go, oh.
It's pretty easy.
People, well, it depends on which way you choose to do it. There are several different ways that you can make that magic exchange. Some are slow, some are fast, some are dangerous, some are not. Jonathan and Charlotte's is both dangerous and fast. And also he added the rip down the curtain to make it instant. But it's also deceptive because where she's going, she's still going there when you see him. He's using himself as misdirection, which is damn good magic, right? Yeah. And he's a really fun mind to create with. Not my favorite trick, but definitely one that blew my mind. And that is the last time. And it would have been 30, 40 years ago. That I looked at something and said, damn. I remember watching it with a friend in college in 1996 and Charlotte came out and he said, that is a well-constructed female. And I said, that was an incredibly diplomatic way of saying something kind of crass. And he was like, because you're in the room, but it was like,
good on him.
Yeah. Hey, God bless. But, I mean, that's very diplomatic and really smart.
Yeah.
But, probably very happily married by now. Yes, sir.
I don't want to, I know it's not your favorite, but in hearing you describe it, I wanted to change my answer to that. And
no, don't, because I got another one.
I'm not changing it.
Okay.
Here's what I like about that. The illusion that Mark and I were both discussing is a group experience, but it's really a bunch of individual experiences that becomes, it's a stained glass window. But something like the Metamorphosis, everybody in the room experiences the same thing and at the same time.
Yeah. Do you want a bunch of little gasps or one big gasp?
There's something to that. There's something to that huge.
100% there is. There's also
that takes your breath away.
Yes. But there's also something important right now going back to yours and why if I had to vote between just those two, I'd still vote for yours about being seen. Derek sees you, just you, and you two are having a connected moment right then right now. And right now, with society where it is, and we're all screaming into the void on the internet. You know, it's all about clicks and views and likes, and we're bombarded constantly with who's in the news and who's made you mad and what's viral and what's up today, and scrolling through Reddit, what's hot, what's new, you know, like, or do I want to go with the top? That kind of stuff. That for somebody, especially someone who's performing for a room full of people, to take 1 second and say, hey, I see you the way you see you. I acknowledge it, and I'm right here. That is a really powerful artistic statement in today's social climate. And it's an important statement that absolutely has to be made. So Jonathan and Charlotte in the 90s doing that, they don't even perform together anymore. They're both doing their own things. But in the 90s, unparalleled. But if you think about what society was in the 1990s, it was a very, hey, look at me, I'm posing in a feathered bikini. Yeah. And that was as far as we really had to go, because everything was kind of fine. And don't get me wrong. I know there was, you know, you lift the rock and there's a bunch of crap squirming around, and I get all that. And I'm not denying that existed. But what I am saying in general is the country was pretty well prospering. There was a huge focus on superficiality and hot or not and stuff like that. And if you think about what was at the forefront, these people were the epitome of that feeling and that societal movement at that time, very much like the trick that you have currently chosen for this moment in time, at the time that this podcast is being recorded. Again, you're right. And you're right for and I'm giving you the reasons that I think that you're right. It's not the trick I would choose. And again, I was not personally moved by it for my own reasons, because we are all subjectively moved by or not moved by art. We could all walk by the same painting and one of us might stop and look for a long time. The other two might just walk by, right? But what Derek has done is seen you, all of you, every single person in this room, as you have chosen to identify in the moment you showed up. And that is an incredibly powerful piece of magic that is transcendent. And I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to make you let me concede. I'm going to concede.
I know, right?
For this moment, if we really make it specific and say best magic trick right now.
Yeah. February
if you
2021.
If you asked me a couple years ago, I might say Shin Lim and the cards he made vanish on America's Got Talent.
Which is technically perfect.
It's really good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible.
You know, and so, but at that time, it was really resonant with people because there was a lot of smoke and mirrors going on in society. And my personal view of magic is to hold, and art in general, and theater, of course, is to hold up a mirror, as Derek did literally. I don't know if he still does, but at the end of the show, they did the cabaret, like you are all Nazis, like the mirror came out and he showed us ourselves. I don't know if that's still a thing, because like I said, I saw such an early iteration of the show, but literally holding up a mirror to what is happening right now. And right now, in this moment, February 2021, Derek's trick cannot be beat because it is so resonant, contemporary, and making such a statement. It is the magic trick we need right now, if that makes sense. We were talking about the why. We were talking about how to make this thing matter that talks to space. We were talking about all these things. And this illusion that you've both described, whether you describe it as a trick, a piece of performative art, or an illusion, or whatever, a divination, you could boil it down. It is all of those things. There's technical adeptness. There's an artistic statement that matters. There's connection with the audience. They're present. The checklist is there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, but you're going to have to give it to me. I've won the debate. What's that?
Have won. Of course you've won the debate. We are not magic experts. You are a magic expert who has spent a lifetime.
It's not about winning. It's about an honest, and I mean, it's like, I will concede because I get it. I get why it mattered to you. And is it my cup of tea? It wasn't the night I saw it. Would it be if I watched it on, wherever it's streaming now? It sure might be. I might watch it and go, wow, was I off? What a difference this show has, what a different show this has become. But I get it. And I have seen the reaction to this. And it is very similar to Copperfield's Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
To something incredible that you can't explain or put your finger on. You just know that it meant something to you. And isn't that what art is for?
Yes, 100%. And you
Al, I think you have to do
very
it.
salient points. The other half of it that I keep thinking about, because I want to hear the other trick no matter what, is you brought up that may be the best trick for right now.
Yes.
But our job on this podcast, we took an oath.
We did.
Blood. And I'm telling the truth because I fact check what I just said myself.
Yourself, yeah. And you decide
true.
if you're the liar or not. Yes.
We decide what is the best of all time for all time. There are certainly categories, and we did this. I think we've done 2 Marvel Cinematic Universe episodes now because we update it because new things come out.
New movies come out, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there may be a time when this may necessitate a follow-up with you.
Fair.
The question is, and I think we may find out the answer based on what your next trick is or what your number 1 would be, is that the best trick of all time as opposed to something else? With the illusion that we're talking about, Mark and I, would it work the same 40, 50 years ago?
Answer your own question. What do you think? Do you think that if he stood up at an advertising convention with a bunch of Don Drapers and said, you're a conductor, you're a musician, you're this, you're that, do you think that those men would still identify with that and go, oh my God, he saw me? I do not think so.
No.
I absolutely don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think it is a powerful social statement for right now, which is why I conceded with that caveat. I will tell you, when I first got into magic, I sent out a survey because I didn't know what I was doing. And I came into it at 23. Most people get into it at 10 or 11 and they grow up in their parents' basement with their deck in one hand and their in the other. And they don't normally come out of that normal people. I was a full-fledged human being adult when I got into magic, and I got into magic because someone thought I would be a good marketing asset. And I didn't like the way it was going. So I just took his job. So well, it's not great. I'm realistically speaking, he was great. We were just doing different things, but I got into magic later. And so I looked at it from a completely different perspective. So I sent out a survey to 125 people, almost all of whom sent it back. And I said, what should I be most on stage? What should I never do on stage? I'm putting together this magic show. What would a magic show be incomplete without? What do you need to see to believe that you've seen magic? And every single response, all the surveys that came back, over 100, had the same answer.
Top hat.
No.
Damn it.
I was like, he's right. It is a top hat.
It's a bunny.
A bunny and a top hat on a table.
What is it? Wait, what is it?
It was to fly. I need to see something float or fly.
Oh.
And in all the shows that I've ever done, I have avoided flight because it's expensive.
Sure.
I have avoided flight because it's a pain. But I do have a couple of traveling tricks that do levitate, and there are small things that can levitate. You can levitate in front of somebody, and that's cheap and easy. It's not easy to do it well, but it's not expensive. But I do have a very expensive table that flies around, and it's haunted by ghosts. And I hardly ever do it because I don't really feel like I do it very well.
Yeah.
And but every time I do it, people walk up and they are moved by, oh my God, when that table flew, I mean, your show is fine, but that table flying. And I'm like, damn, those surveys, those people really knew. They were right. There's something about the human experience of soaring like an eagle, being above, the liberty, the freedom of being able to rise beyond, that really moves people. The weightlessness and the carefree aspect of being able to float or fly, specifically the human body. That is really resonant overall. And I think if you put that trick in front of the Don Drapers, they would go, holy crap. If you put that trick in front of the 1906 Spiritualism Society, they'd go, oh my God, he's got the medium skill, gift. But
Arthur Conan Doyle is shaking his head in the back.
Arthur Conan Doyle loved that stuff. Are you kidding me? He gave these two 13-year-old girls a ton of money because they took a picture of a fairy. So, but they, God. But if you showed that same trick back in Christ's time, Christ flew, they wrote about it in the Bible. He floated up off the ground after escaping his tomb 3 days later. Best magician, best PR ever until Houdini, as far as I'm concerned. But the idea of flying would be timeless.
Now, it's funny you mentioned that because, and you've already conceded.
And again, this is just my opinion.
Anyway. This is
just my opinion.
But let me just throw this out there. If we are looking for the greatest magic trick of all time, I did in my personal experience, the greatest, recent magic experience I had was this, in and of itself. The one that I remember, one that I have remembered the longest is a flying routine. And it was David Copperfield. And I saw him live twice. I saw every special he did on TV. Like as a kid, I was David Copperfield obsessed.
Yeah. And
one of the first things that blew my mind was not the Statue of Liberty or the Great Wall of China. It was David Copperfield flying. Specifically, the way that and it's not even the entirety of the flying routine, which I saw him do both on TV and I saw him do it live.
Mm-hmm.
And live, it's so much more spectacular because you really are looking, going, I have no idea how this guy is flying.
Also, you're concerned for his safety.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember, but they pull him up, if I'm remembering correctly, and it's been a long time since I've seen anything even close to it. But the story that they told was he was overcoming those, like he had ropes or harnesses and they gave away one by one. And then he took flight and he soared right over you.
It's amazing.
And wouldn't that be something to be able to do that?
Oh, well, he was so great with he always did have an end of his, banter segment. He sort of segmented it like, here's the monologue part and then here's the illusion. And that did seem like the segue of, wouldn't this be amazing if I could do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was a specific move that he did. And I've remembered this since I was a little kid. And in researching this episode, I saw it again today. And it took me back to that moment. I will try to describe something that is a very visual thing, but it is the physics of him putting his arms up in the air, closing his fists, and then almost doing a pull up into the sky while not holding any, like his hands stay in the same spot and his body is lifted up. That specific moment as a kid, I went, this has opened my imagination up to what magic is and can be. And I would definitely put flight in as a contender, not only for that personal reason, but for the fact that 125 people also have seen or would like to see that.
Yeah. And would also like to be that.
Yeah.
And so, like the counterpoint that I would present, based on timelessness, if the two arguments were different, timelessness, either David Copperfield's flight or flight in general, the illusion of flight, I would put forward as the most resonant, best magic trick, the floating of something and making it matter. But I can't put it down. I haven't seen every magician who's ever taken flight or done something floating. So pinpointing it down to one, I cannot. But going to the one that matters the most right now would absolutely be Derek's for the reasons that we all gave.
Sure. But are we picking the greatest magic trick of all time?
It's your show, man. You decide.
I know. Hal, what do you think? What does it say? What was the exact wording of the question?
Best magic trick.
When did it come in?
When Ken said, we should do best magic trick.
So why don't we make Ken pick?
Oh, no, I think I have this.
Okay.
I think I have this.
You got this. So now we're back to, we're dropping the title.
What do you mean you got this? What do you mean you got this?
Correct the pronouns.
The new magic trick was making you disappear from the podcast.
Oh.
I don't like this at all. When people talk about their pronouns, we versus you is not what they mean, Hal.
Yeah. Ooh. Oh, it's real
subjective.
uncomfortable, guys.
You know what? I'm going to do one of these 10 and I'm going to make myself vanish.
No, please don't.
Don't you dare.
Leave me here alone with him. Oh, he doesn't want me either. He just said Hal's got this. So let's both just bug off and have a beer.
Yeah, fine. We're done.
But
No, Hal, you got this. Hal's got this. That's the new name of the podcast is Hal's got this, yeah?
I'm alone. In my one bedroom apartment all alone.
Yeah.
People of the world, I can remember exactly 5 dreams that I've had in my lifetime. 5 of them. And one of them is the dream that I've had multiple times. I used to live on a street in Huntington Valley, Pennsylvania, that was a series of hills, and we lived at the bottom of the 2 biggest hills. And in my dream, I would be at the elevated part of one of the hills. So I'd walked up and then I would start running towards my house. But a weird thing would happen. I would cease to be running on the ground and start to fly. And I had that dream multiple times. This is the greatest dream I've ever had in my life. Every time I see something or someone, if you put a person on a table and throw a blanket on them and then they start levitating and then they turn over, every time, every single time, I think to myself, how the did they do that? Yeah, it was bleep. You know what I said. I said what I said, and I don't get upset. Derek's illusion is absolutely of the moment. It is very important to people, and it is very impactful to people, and that is wonderful. But if you want to surprise and delight everyone from a hominid to somebody who was just born, you make something fly. And that is the best magic trick. Surprise! It was an illusion all along. We distracted you.
Ooh, yeah,
It was
that's
a modern
right.
day illusion.
Yeah.
And here I thought you were going to say that the dream you had all the time was your teeth falling out or you were naked in class.
That's the greatest magic trick.
That was
Naked
that
in
was
class.
my reality.
That's really beautiful.
I
You
showed
really
up
pulled
naked
that
to
out of
school
nowhere.
every day, and my teeth fell out, and that was the truth.
Honey.
That's what it was like
Oh,
at a
it's so
Quaker
dark.
school. In
Oh my
suburban
God.
America.
It's all those
Like,
oats, man. You're eating
all the
that
kids
oat
were
mush
doing
for
it.
breakfast.
Yeah,
he
that was
eating
the
oat
oat
mush?
mush
Yeah, what's
And-
Quaker school?
and all the meth. The greatest.
Yeah, it's a bad
that'll
combination.
do it. It'll do it
Mhm.
every time.
I have to
Should
go
do
to
it
math
quick. class.
Math class? No.
No. All right, everybody, stand over your bathtub. Yeah, the greatest magic trick is fly. No matter what, no matter what or who you're making fly, it's
Yeah.
fly. Let's give the nod to Copperfield just because he's.
I'm into it.
I mean,
Yeah.
is it fair to say he's
You
on the
guys
Mount
are really
Rushmore?
changing your vote?
Yeah,
You
it
know,
It's
happens.
not. Look, we're not voting. We
This
are
isn't voting.
The three of us are the Supreme Court of this. We're deliberating.
Yes, we're all on the same
Yeah.
side here.
Yeah.
And the thing that really the selling point, and the more you talked about it being a trick of the moment, Derek's trick, the more I thought, yes, it absolutely is.
Mhm.
But our job here is not to pick what is the best today.
Oh,
We
these
want
are for-
Okay.
something that is the best will translate across cultures
Mhm.
and across time.
Yeah, pretzel
And
rod
does that?
is the best shaped pretzel
Yeah.
for all people in all times.
I'm
Yes,
mad
don't
at
even-
that, actually. I'm not mad at the pretzel rod. You could do a lot with a pretzel rod.
Yikes! I told you, Mark. I told you.
I'm mad at it. I mean, like it could be a Groucho cigar. It could
See?
be tips and stuff. It could be munched slowly over time. You could put it in your
Oh.
pocket, pull it back out, and carry it and chew
Misty,
on it.
Misty, if you have ice cream, you can bite it and it'll split, and then you'll have like a little open part. Spoon.
I'm into it, and I have done that. Where do you think combos came from?
Of course.
I do love
Yes.
combos.
Oh, my
Misty,
God, cheddar
this
cheese
has
balls.
been a delight. I'm
Asked and
ending
answered.
this right now. Asked and answered.
My second trick was Teller with the rose and the knife. By the way, go ahead.
Wait, dang it.
No,
Well, you-
we're ending the podcast, and that they can look it up on YouTube.
All right, the rose and the knife.
Teller Shadows Rose and Knife. Look that up. You'll find it.
Tell people where to find you. What do you
Oh, I'm hiding from all of them, including you guys. It took you years to suss me out of the bush.
It
Are you
really
kidding
did.
me?
We've been trying to get you on the show forever. There's an incantation we had to do.
Yeah.
They had to draw a circle and conjure the demon, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, this thing.
And we were like, no, we can't be in the same room.
Candles
so we
and
reconjured her
salt
back
and-
to her own booth.
Yeah. Anyway, MistyLee.com if they want to watch little magic tricks that we did, none of which are the greatest trick in the world, but they're all cute. UnicornWednesday.com. Those are cute. And if they want to watch the Straitjacket Escape, that's a real laugh riot, the domestic violence allegory,
Mhm.
they can look up Misty Lee Escape and they'll find it on YouTube.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much.
Oh,
It's
thank
great
you.
to have an
guys.
expert on the
Yeah.
show.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I've been doing it a while.
We will. You are an absolute delight.
Oh.
Thank you for being here. This topic is closed, but there are many more topics to discuss. So please reach out to us on Twitter at We Got This Tweets or
Email us at wegotThisPodcast@gmail.com or go to the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/ We Got This Podcast. Talk about your favorite magic tricks. Share a video or don't. Just share the wonder. How about that? How about we
Oh.
share why don't we just share the wonder anymore, man?
Right.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be like all about what's going on? Like, why can't we just be like, wow,
I know.
Oh,
man,
guys. Oh, the wonder.
yeah, oh.
Thank you to producer Ken Plume, researcher Kate McManus, graphic designer Uri Kelman, and QA engineer Jen Alba.
And thanks, of course, to our musicians, Jonathan Dinerstein and Mike Furman, for our score and theme song, respectively. And thanks to you, the people of the world, for giving us a chance to sit down and talk with Misty Lee. Misty Lee, according to Penn Jillette. Yeah. You can look, this episode's getting so overly bleeped anyway.
He told me not to say the word, and I just could not.
Sorry, Ken. Ken's going to have a time. There were some swear words. Here's a clip. There's a clip of all the swear words in the episode.
Just one long.
Thank you. For Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi.
For Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin. And don't worry, everybody.
We got this.
We got this.
Hey, I'm Janet Varney, host of the JV Club podcast. High school. Was it a time of adventure, romance, and discovery?
Class of 95! We did it!
Or a time of angst, disappointment, and confusion?
We're all tied together by 4 years of trauma at this place, but enjoy adulthood, I guess.
The truth is, it was both. So join me on the JV Club podcast, where I invite some great friends like Kristen Bell, Angela Kinsey, Oscar Nunez, Neil Patrick Harris, and Keegan-Michael Key to talk about high school, the good, the bad, and everything in between.
My teenage mood swings are getting harder to manage.
The JV Club. Find it on Maximum Fun.
I started listening to Ono, Ross, and Carrie shortly after I broke my arm.
I was allergic to water. I knew it was time to make a change.
There's something about Ono, Ross, and Carrie that you just can't get anywhere else.
They're thought leaders, discoverers, founders,
healers,
luminaries.
Ross and Carrie don't just report on fringe science, spirituality, and claims of the paranormal. They take part themselves.
They show up so you don't have to.
But you might find that you want to.
My arm is better.
My landlord came back from the dead.
Just go to MaximumFun.org.
Thank you, Ross and Carrie.
Ono, Ross, and Carrie is just a podcast. It doesn't do anything. It's just sounds you listen to in your ears. All these people are made up. Goodbye.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned.
Audience supported.